With all this back to work drive from large corporations after the COVID lockdowns, a lot of folks are asking how they can continue to work from home or at least have the flexibility to work from where they want. I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations, and we're going to talk a little bit about being a consultant or having consulting as a sideline, and a little bit about the mindset of your career approach and using the consulting as a metaphor, how to choose your niche area. See, everybody's had the opportunity to work from home. A lot of white-collar professionals, high-income professionals simply just transition from working in an office to working at home. And they realize without a multi-hour commute each day, the ability to focus on a job and have a good control over their work environment, they were able to be more productive. They were able to have a better emotional and physical connection with their family, and ultimately it worked out rather well. Now, companies or corporations want to drive you back in the office. They want you in the office because it builds loyalty. Now, we've talked about the environment and how your environment engages individuals and shapes the beliefs of individuals. Well, corporations know this stuff. There's such a thing as operational psychologists or workplace psychologists. And so, for example, Google giving out free food from gourmet chefs and quality food keeps people from leaving the campus. And because people aren't leaving the campus, they are not having gaps in work during the day because they have to, go down the street. When I worked out at Charlotte, I had to go downstairs from the 30th or 40th floor. I had to walk across the way and get something to eat. If it was raining, it took twice as long. I had to wait in line somewhere. It's like cattle lines at these restaurants. Great for the restaurant, not good for me when I have work to get done. So it took me 30 to 40 minutes just to get lunch to bring back to my desk and eat. So Google says, okay, well, we're just going to offer a cafeteria. We're going to offer quality food. In the manufacturing environment, they offer cafeterias so that the workers get food but don't get distracted. They don't have to leave the building to get the food. This is shaping of the environment. So corporations want you back in the office so that they can have, Google offers you a free dinner, but it's really late at night. I like to eat dinner at about 5 o'clock. I like to get off work, fix dinner, have a sit-down dinner with my family, and then start engaging in that second part of the day, which might be household chores. It might just be watching a movie with my kid. It might just be taking a walk around the neighborhood. But ultimately, I want that choice of a 5 o'clock dinner rather than getting off at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, sitting in traffic for several hours before you go home. So if you are experiencing this juxtaposition of being in an office and then being free, working from home, or some of us work from remote offices that are near our homes. But ultimately, you realize there's got to be something different. That's why Wall Street Journal is reporting that 40% of employees who are working from home would rather simply quit their current job than to return to an office. See, the employer needs you in an office to have better control over you. They feel like it gives better team cohesiveness. And there are team building activities and shared experiences that in the office place makes people stay there longer and more loyal to the company. When you're at home, you start to realize that your company is just a plug and play part of your life. Whether you're working for company A or company B, your results are going to be very similar. So you don't have to be as loyal to the company you're working for. Now, to be fair, there are individuals who don't want to work from home. They prefer being in an office somewhere. They prefer, constant interruptions from the people around them and talking to each other around the canteen or I don't really know what it is. But frankly, when I have back-to-back meetings pretty much every day, I don't want to have to run from conference room to conference room. When the majority of the people I work with are out of the country or in another state, it doesn't matter if my company has 5 hub locations. I'm still talking remote to these individuals. In your home environment, you can control every aspect of your environment. You can have music playing in the background. You can have the lights dimmed out. You can have nobody bother you for hours at a time, and you have greater productivity. Now, what you're experiencing is the same thing a consultant might experience, an independent contractor might experience, or an employee who works for a company that allows the flexibility for individuals, especially professionals, to just simply get the work done. There are drawbacks from work from home. You'll work longer hours. You'll be more attentive to your workplace. You'll actually kind of be in this kind of funnel vision because you won't have those interruptions. You won't have to walk down 2 hallways to go to the bathroom. There is a lot more sitting time. But ultimately, if you develop your niche area, you can enter the world of consulting. Now, consulting doesn't have to replace your career work. In fact, consulting is very powerful to cultivate your career. There are things like publishing materials and being involved in exciting new projects for short durations. These things actually build your career and perspective and make you a better employee if you want to stay the employee route. But here are some ways to find your niche. Now, a niche is a very specific area of expertise. Very often I'll get called out as a subject matter expert. You've probably heard that terms. There are certain areas where you deliver such consistent and quality results that others look upon you as the subject matter expert, the go-to person for that particular topic. So whether you want to be a consultant or you want to go back to the office and just be a better contributor or even a leader in your field, these elements are how you choose your niche. There are riches in niches. Being known for something powerful pays. So first off, you're going to do self-assessments of strength and expertise. Now, I know a lot of people want to work on their weaknesses. They find out they got a weakness and they instantly want to correct it. I would argue that the strengths have more value in a marketplace than your weaknesses. Like one of my weaknesses is, for example, is when I'm excited in a conversation, I dump a lot of information. I know I've lost opportunities for this. But if I'm excited about a topic, for example, a client asked me to write a little bit about consulting, I can sit down and write a 20-page paper in an hour. So my weakness can become a strength. You want to start with your strengths. So to find your niche, you're going to do that self-assessment. What are you very good at? Now, when I say self-assessment, I also mean investing in assessment tools like the Kolbe assessment. There's a list of assessments that we have at the office. Just write in and we'll get you a list. But I actually attended a 3-day executive psychological evaluation. So I went, I heard about, Brian Tracy talked about this in a program a long time ago. I went and invested in myself and actually had an executive function psychological assessment. So there's a psychologist there and you're in a room with a camera and you fill out all kinds of paperwork and you find out that what your IQ is. You find out if you have any deficiencies that are in the psychological world. You find out if you have any strengths. Very powerful. I actually do an executive physical and the evaluation you only need to do once or twice in a lifetime. But there are different types of assessments that are beyond the crap you get on the internet, and these will give you a strength profile. Actually, Strength Finder is not bad if you actually go beyond just getting the report. The key is that you're going to do the self-assessment, and then you're going to validate those strengths in the marketplace. See, it's no good having a niche or being an expert in an area that nobody cares about. When we're talking about career development or becoming a consultant, we want to be an expert in areas of demand. So going into the .com bubble, my expertise area that, I've got many expertise areas, but the expertise area that I marketed was systems integration. Now, I was a computer repair guy to start, but as I matured in that career, I started moving towards risk management, project management, and systems integration in technology environments, primarily publishing environments that are publishing on the internet and environments that were doing e-commerce. So into the .com, we were talking about e-commerce. Now, my company did data center migrations. My company did systems design. We hired and managed subcontractors to get different projects finished. But ultimately, my area of expertise was that big picture. What is your business continuity plan? What are your failovers when it comes to specific components in your publishing system? What are things that you're going to do as an internet provider? We actually supported Digital Nation when they were bought out by PSINet and helped with some of the migration there. What is it that the strengths of your company are in relationship to the technology? Same model. But again, if I was an expert in making paper, that might not have been as useful during the dot-com. And then after the dot-com bubble, there was a lot of cleanup work as a senior level systems administrator or a systems engineer. However, there was a point where a lot of that work started to get outsourced to India. So I could hire guys in India to do the work that I was hiring US guys for and pay about a fifth of the cost and get about an 80 to 90% quality on what I originally had. Okay, now the perception is the quality is not that good, but if you know how to hire, if you know how to bring people together as a team, you will get high quality work at some point in whatever niche area you're at from a lower cost provider. It could be automation that does this. It could be globalization. It could be a lot of things. But simply validate your strengths against the marketplace. Which of those strengths have value in the marketplace? Now, can you see how this is good for career assessment too? If you're a senior level manager in a company and you're an individual contributor and you start noticing that junior folks can do just as good as you because pretty much you've built out a system and all they got to do is plug and play, there will be a point where a company's going to try to save money and they're going to cut your six-figure job, even though they don't understand the nuances of the system, even though they know that the work is being done at 80%, 60% efficiency. They can do it without you. They can always hire you back. Next thing you want to do is you want to build on past experiences and capabilities. One way of doing this is to keep a success journal. Okay, when I work with clients, we actually profile every client success that we can find and turn it into some kind of white paper or some kind of narrative so that someone else can see your strengths without you telling them. Okay, nobody wants a braggart. You might be a subject matter expert in risk management. Okay, that's one of the areas which I do work. It's in high demand right now. The data analytics is in high demand too. But if I went around telling people about the things that I did, that would be untrue because I work on teams. I'll either bring together 2 or 3 people or I'll be brought onto a team of 2 or 3 people and we'll solve big problems as a team. So I don't want to take credit for that. That would be unrealistic. Plus, as you build out a niche or an area of expertise, if you start describing all of the parts that are necessary to solve one of these problems, people are going to understand that there are other pieces that you're not an expert in. And if they assume you're an expert in those pieces and you get hired and cannot perform, then it's going to backfire. So if we describe it from the customer's perspective, one customer of mine, when I was doing business development work on a regular basis, was making $400,000 a year over the last 10 years. They were struggling. They couldn't expand the business for anything. And as a last-ditch effort, they hired me on a 6-month contract to help them with business development. What we did was we mined data around people who are ideally suited to hire them as a client or hire them as a vendor. We looked at their past performance and cataloged that and built new marketing materials that we targeted directly at these organizations who could hire this company to do the specific things that they do. Over a 6-month period, we were able to book $1.2 million in new business. So the company went from $400,000 a year with 20 or so employees, and that's a really tight number there, to $1.2 million with 20 or so employees. They didn't need more people. They just got higher dollar work. From there, we went on to develop a system for them, which was a marketing system, wrote a marketing plan that they executed. And as they executed the marketing plan, they were able to pick up a few $6 and $7 million contracts. The company went from 20 people to 70 people. And there were a lot of challenges along the way, but ultimately by applying a system for business development, they were able to grow from $400,000 a year to more than $20 million a year in about a 3 to 4 year period. The owner went from making $400 a month, barely struggling, difficult to make payroll every month, really beaten down by the experience, to making more than $10,000 a month, fully funding his retirement account each year to the maximum legal limit, sending his kids to Oxford University and overseas, and then ultimately paying off all of his debt that was accumulated by the business that wasn't producing. He went on to do quite well. Now, unfortunately, the years of stress of not doing well really played a havoc on his health, and he was diagnosed with diabetes. And then while playing tennis on a country club course, he's playing tennis in the country club, he has a heart attack, and pretty much everybody stands around and gawks at him, and he ends up dying. But this is the most important part, and I think if he's looking down from heaven, he would be smiling because he was able to fully fund his retirement, fully fund his health and life insurance, and fully pay for all his kids' college and university within a 2-year period, which allowed him to take care of his family, even though this unfortunate situation happened. See, folks, can you see what I did? I described the skills that I brought to the table using my client's story. Now, I don't like to use that story because the poor guy dies, because 10 years of struggle can really wear on you. But again, I want to bring you this information and how to choose a niche so that you aren't struggling for 10 years. Maybe you've been in a career for a while and you're kind of at the upper limits. The amount of money that you make, there aren't other jobs to apply for that make that same amount of money or take you to the next level. And in the case of having to move back to an office, perhaps you've worked from home and realized that the cost of living, not having to commute every day, not having to eat out every day, not having to stay late at work or even have an apartment near the office so that you can work during the week and come home on the weekends. You've realized that your lifestyle's changed, and that's worth just as much as salary. And so now when you go back to the office, you realize that's going to add 20 to 40% to your expenses, and it's going to be difficult. See, these kinds of stresses are alleviated, not eliminated, alleviated by building out your niche. That way people are attracted to you. You have something to promote or teach. You actually can get out into the marketplace in a legitimate way, whether you're an employee or a consultant or an independent contractor, or you're opening your own agency. It doesn't really matter, but the strengths have to be there. You have to be known for something. Now, I'm looking at the time here, and still got like 8 more things on this list. So if you'll write into my office with your questions and you want to ask how to choose a niche, I'll make sure that when my assistant types this up, we get you a copy. Because I go on to talk about focusing on areas that pay. There are top dollar industries that you need to be looking at. How do you do that? You want to be able to apply what you already know with companies who have problems. See, there's a lot of stuff you know that at your current engagement, nobody really cares about. Yet there are companies struggling today, companies getting consent orders, companies getting legal requirements, companies getting pressure from regulatory and state and federal level agencies who, if they only had what you know, now they're not going to go out and get what you know. It takes time to learn new things, but they will hire you for 6 months. They'll hire you for 3 months. They'll hire you for 18 months. All depending on their scale and size of their problem. And that's one of the ways that you find your niche area. There's things about writing white papers. There's about getting a third-party critical analysis of what you do. But I'm simply out of time. So I'm Justin Hitt with Inside Strategic Relations. We've been talking about how to transition in your career, either upward and having more flexibility and more independence, or outward, becoming a consultant and having a greater marketplace of potential clients, and doing this through a focused niche so that you can be known for something. So that when someone has a problem in your area, they immediately call and demand you help them. Now, of course, as a consultant or as an employee, as an employee, that demand is, you don't get any extra for that. But as a consultant, that demand means additional income streams. It means additional flexibility. And it might mean being able to continue a lifestyle that builds you up rather than wears you out. My client who 10 years of struggle ended up with diabetes. He ended up with a heart condition. He ended up with a lot of health issues. Great man, awesome contributor. And as soon as he had the resources did everything in his power to make sure his family was taken care of. Because unfortunate situations do happen. We just went through the whole COVID issue. There are other things like heart disease and diabetes and cancer that are much worse than COVID. But if your life on this earth was left short, and this is the last thing that you're going to write down about your, there's a lot of things on this list, but here's the last one I'm going to cover here. If your life was cut short, what would you be known for? What would your contribution be? See, when we build these things out, we start cultivating a niche. You're going to know which customer or which industry you're going to work best. You might even discover that skills that you're using in industry A are actually worth more in industry B. You'll also discover how these tools like SWOT analysis, gap analysis, strengths assessments can actually be used in project work. But most importantly, needs to be worked on yourself. At the end of this, you're going to end up with a development plan, or you're going to end up with a written assessment of yourself, which is going to take you to that next level. Don't do what the typical employee does and do a strength finder and then that's it. They just never read the report, or they read it like astrology. Ultimately, this is about developing a niche area and then putting it into application in the marketplace to gain greater flexibility. This is how we transform business relationships into profits guaranteed. Thank you for your time with me. These podcasts are on Apple, Google Play, Audible. They're on all kinds of different platforms. And if you could do me a quick favor and simply subscribe to your favorite platform, it would give me an idea how many people are out there listening to these programs. The analytics around podcasts are horrible. I know there are thousands of people who listen to these podcasts and they listen to these materials, but so few are ever going to raise their hand and send in a question. I hope you're one of the elites in writing in and asking your questions, because I really do have a list of maybe 20 items here that will help you choose your niche, whether it's career-wise or as a consultant. Being known for something, having authority in that marketplace increases your demand, increases how many people want you. And when supply and demand's like that, when there's more people who want you as an employee, even as you start to get older in the marketplace, being known for something secures your opportunity. And we can use that as leverage to secure your lifestyle, to secure the influence you desire, and to give you security in life. Thanks for listening. You can get more from this newsletter at www.insidestrategicrelations.com. When you subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you use, you'll get notified of additional programs. And then when you visit the website and ask a question, we have some free resources I'd like to share with you, including an email newsletter, which would also help you understand more ways to apply these insights. There are riches in niches. When you specialize in something, you get paid more. You get better respect. You get more opportunities. That's what I want for you. Thanks for listening.